Hi, it's Marianne of MW's Designs. Today I'm making bookmarks using my new Hearts and Flowers design. I hope you'll join me while I make some of them, and maybe you'll try your hand at making your own designs. These are some that I have done already, and I've used 140-pound watercolor paper. I find that's a good weight for bookmarks, but of course you could use heavier or lighter paper if you wanted to. These are variations on a theme. Some of them have the pattern on the front and a plain background, and others have a plain front and the pattern on the back. My hearts are plain so that I can put my wording on, and I've kept my wording short and simple so that it fits on the little hearts. Let's get on to the painting. I'm going to move these bookmarks out of the way, and I have my watercolor paper ready. In some of my other videos, I have mentioned that I like to wet both sides of my paper when I have a small piece like this, and that just keeps my paper flat while I'm working on it. So one side done, and now the other side. If you are using a larger piece of watercolor paper, though, it's probably a good idea to tape down the edges, and then that will keep it from getting any bumps and having your watercolor paint go in places that you don't want it to go. So I'm using a mixture of marine blue paint and Viridian, and I like the color that gives me. I'm going to apply it with my number 12 round brush, but if you wanted to use a flat brush, that would work well too. Just any larger size brush that you have. So we'll apply the paint. I really enjoy the movement of the paint when I put it on the wet paper, wet in wet. It just gives interesting serendipitous effects, which are fun to watch. So we'll get some mostly all over. If you have a few white spots, that's okay too. That just kind of adds to the interest. You can tip your page to let the paint flow a little bit more. Just get into some of the corners. And if you find that you have a little bit too much paint, like puddles around, especially around the edges, you could use a cloth to just dab it off so that you get rid of some of those. I like to keep a paper towel or a little cloth handy so that I can do that. Now, normally I would set this aside and let it dry a little bit so that the paper isn't shiny anymore, but still is damp, and then I would turn it over, add a little bit more water, and then do the same thing to the other side. But right now I'm going to set this aside, and I already have a dry painted piece of paper. I've been working on parchment paper so that if I have water or paint, I can wipe it off and not get any paint on my dry piece. So this is painted on both sides. Now I'm going to show you how I do the pattern, and I'm going to use a smaller brush. This is a number 5 Winsor & Newton cotton brush, or Cotman brush, and I really enjoy using this brush, so that's what I'm going to use. You could use any smaller brush that you like to use. And I keep my little cloth handy, and I dab off the excess paint. Then I'm going to start in one corner, and I'm doing a 6-petaled flower And I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Then I'm going to go in a diagonal direction. Our eyes and our minds are stimulated by diagonal lines, and it keeps our mind looking at these kinds of lines longer than it would if it were vertical or horizontal lines. I find that kind of interesting. So now I've got maybe just a little bit too much paint on those petals, and I can lift them off by getting my brush a little bit dry, and I just lift off the excess, so that if that happens to you and you don't want that much paint, just dry your brush and lift the excess paint off. So let's get a little bit more paint here. Sometimes I do several flowers with one brush loading, and that makes some of the flowers darker and then some of them lighter. And that's what I like to do. I like to have a little variation. And we can also do that by making some of the flowers larger and some of them smaller. Now that I have a line of flowers, I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm going to go in between for this row. And that helps make a uniform pattern, but not exact, because it's actually, I think it's more interesting if it's not exact, because this is a hand-created item, so it doesn't have to be machine accurate. Okay, so we'll get a few more of these on each side. Now the other side. I'm not going really carefully. Okay, maybe one more here. I'm not going to do the whole page just for time in the video. I don't want to take too long. Now, when these flowers are dry, I'm going to give them a center. Some of them I'm not sure if they're quite dry, but that still is okay. Then I'm going to do some overlapping flowers. And when I have overlapping flowers, some flowers larger, some flowers smaller, some flowers lighter and darker, it gives depth to my pattern, and I think it gives a more interesting result. And even going off the page just keeps it natural. Okay, we'll get a little more paint. We need one in here. You can kind of look where there's an empty space and decide if you want to add a flower. And in the overall design, if there are a few little mistakes, it probably just blends in, and you won't notice little imperfections, because there, obviously in mine, there are lots of imperfections. So we'll give them their centers. I'm almost running out of paint here. Okay. And the last thing I like to do is make little dots in between, and I think that gives an effect of lightness. I do them in threes because that is another thing that our eyes are drawn to, is groups of odd-numbered items. So sometimes I do a little triangle, sometimes I do a single dot, sometimes I do 3 dots in a row, and you can just keep going across your paper till you have it filled in as much as you want to have it. Okay, so you get the idea. And as I said, I'm not going to finish it, but I'll set that aside. And although this is in a different color, this is what you will end up with as an overall design. And I like the effect that I get with it. I have made some cardboard patterns to make my bookmark shape and for my heart shapes, a large one, a middle-sized one, and a tiny-sized one, and I'll show you how they get used. So this isn't the right size, but I'll show you what I would do. I would just trace off the bookmark size and cut it out. Then I would also trace around my hearts in these 2 sizes and then cut those out. So these are some that are ready to finish. I have my basic bookmark shape, plain on one side, pattern on the other, and these are my hearts with the plain side up. And I arrange them where I think I want them to go so that they're balanced. Then I leave the 2 outer ones on, and I'm going to put glue from a glue stick on this middle one. You could use wet glue or you could use double-sided tape, but just for ease in this video, I am using a glue stick. And I actually was surprised when I tried it. The glue stick does hold these parts down pretty well. I thought maybe because of their weight, they wouldn't stay stuck on as well. Okay, and then I would glue the 2 end ones, but I better show you how I decorate the hearts before I glue them on. So I have this medium-sized heart that fits inside my heart that I want to glue on, and I have a sparkle gel pen, and I'm just going to draw firmly around this edge to make my inner line, and let go and keep pressing, don't let go, and I let go, but we'll make it work anyway. Okay, draw all around the edge. There, you can't even tell I had a little goof up. Then, whatever word you want to write in, you can do that. If you have good handwriting, you can write it or do calligraphy, or maybe you have a stamp that you want to put in. I'm just going to print mine. My printing is not too bad. Okay, and then I would glue that one up there, right on this one, glue this one, and that would be finished. Then another thing I want to point out is when I did it the other way, the pattern on the back and my small plain hearts on the front, it didn't look quite finished to me, so I decided to make a border. And I learned this technique from Shada Campbell, who is a YouTuber who does absolutely beautiful artwork with mostly with flowers, but other things too. And she says to make a border like this, pull the pen towards your body, and that helps you make a fairly straight line. And it really is amazing how well it works. You may need a little bit of practice, but not much. And if you keep doing that, you'll be able to draw nice straight borders. Okay, and then to my eye, that looks a little more finished, and I'm quite happy with it. I think that's all I wanted to show you today, but I'm just going to bring back my bookmarks so you can see more of them again. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I would love to hear from you, so you could write a comment down below if you like, or ask me a question. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and also the bell beside it so that you will be notified of my next video. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.